Content warning, this following contains strong language. It's a little spicy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good to Tuki. We got the podcast.
Ka motuhake, bro.
Right, poro kāte tu a tahi.
Che, ko ai hei manuhiri. Pehea eru.
Eru. Kapa-Kingi. Te Kingi o te Norta. Bro, kei roto in the podcast katoa. Doesn't he have his own podcast?
Podcast? Oosh, I'm always keen to jam a podcast.
Of course you are. Eka, te tere hoki o tō tānga mai, bro.
It's because I'm Māori, bro.
Well, hara mai Māori ki te porokate.
Porokate is a podcast by the Hori and te Kuru. Toitu te porokate, toitu te reo Māori.
Kia ora whānau, nau mai ki te porokate ko Hori toku ingoa no Ngāti tō rangatira, Ngāti Kahununi ki Wairarapa, Kaitahu hoki, nau mai ki Otaki ki te rohi pōtaia Ngāti Raukawa, kia ora, ki toku hoa, te kuru o te Marama Jews.
Tēnā koe, bro. Kia ora whānau, ko te kuru o te Marama Jews tēnei no Ngāti Porou no Aotearoa, ko tō tātou manuhiri tuatahi i te porokate, ko Eru Kapa-Kingi o te Tai Tokerau.
Kia ora tātou e hoama, ahau, mokopuna no Ngāpuhi, no te au pauri tupuake o tō whangarei tupuake i te rohe o te Tai Tokerau, te rohe i whānau mai ai, ko te Whakaputanga, te tuakana kātahi ko te tiriti o Waitangi, ko te teina kārua. Hei pupuru ki te mana Māori, tēnā tātou katoa.
Oh, kia ora, my Ngāpuhi brother. Welcome to the porokate. Te kingi on that podcast you are.
Ai ki te kōrero, nā te kōrero.
Oh, mate, welcome to the porokate. It's a bit different. We do things a bit different here, but you'll get a hang of it. I just want to get into it, brother. Two-part question here. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you probably asked the first one quite a bit, but the second one probably not. It goes like this. What does tino rangatiratanga look like for you? With the second little part is, can Pākehā have tino rangatiratanga?
Bro, tika, horekau makarau nei konei, i nei pātai, hoi anō. Yeah, mean, pai nei pātai. Rangatiratanga to me, bro, is living in absolute freedom. To be, to think, to believe, to feel. Nā, Māori katoa. Kia noho Māori tātou i roto i tō tātou ao Māori. Horekau he raru, horekau he here, I waho mai. Hei tāmitanga kia tawa, and I reflect on some of the kōrero from Matua Papa Moana Jackson, te wā iaia. Freedom isn't just not having like chains on you or not having shackles on you. It's more than that. It's the freedom to be absolutely your whole best Māori self. So that's to me what tino rangatiratanga is, and that's not actually something that we're moving towards. It's not a new idea. It's something that we're going back to. The universe that our tupuna lived in was a rangatira universe, and they lived like that for 1,000 years before Pākehās eventually figured out how to get here. That to me is what tino rangatiratanga is, bro.
And the second, there we go.
That's the first time I've actually been asked that pātai, but my flat response is no, Pākehā can't have tino rangatiratanga. Tino rangatiratanga is not relevant to Pākehā philosophies or the ways that Pākehā live. Rangatiratanga is something that's born out of collective living, which is an ao Māori thing. That's how our tupuna lived. Our tupuna came from and existed in a world where there was collective existence, and rangatiratanga wasn't something that was held by an individual just in their lifetime, but something held collectively and measured also by how you could feed your people, feed your collective, look after your collective, and then that's something that was also handed down generationally. So I just don't think rangatiratanga is even relevant to a Pākehā world or to a Pākehā paradigm, and that is something that is unique to us and makes us magic.
Kia o whakaaro, bro. I a koe kōrero ana mo te rangatiratanga. Kei konei au e whakaaro ana ki Ngai Pākehā, me o rātou whakaaro ki tēnei mea, because te ahua nei, you know, mai rāno pea, e mataku ana New Tireni, ki tēnei kupu ei, te tinoranga tiratanga.
Tika.
Te mea, kei te mōhio pia rātou I roto I tō rātou ngākau, ko tērā te tino, te puna o te mana o te Māori. Engari, ki o whakaaro, kei te mārama ngā New Zealanders ki tēnei mea te tinoranga tiratanga, ia tātou e kōrero ana. Do you think, like most New Zealanders, have grasped what we mean when we talk about tinoranga tiratanga for Māori?
I'd say no, bro. And e tika tō kōrero, tinoranga tiratanga he whanaunga tērā ki te mana tuku iho. Ne? Whanaunga e rangi koia tērā ko te kupu me te tinana o te whakaro I te ao hou. Te ao Māori e tūtaki ana ki te ao Pākehā kua ao hou tēnā. Any Pākehā who believes that we gave away our tinoranga tiratanga in 1840, that in itself proves that they don't understand what tinoranga tiratanga is and how deep it runs. Like, that's not even in the realm of what's possible in te ao Māori. Right? There's no way our tūpuna could have even conceived of giving away mana, giving away tinoranga tiratanga. It'd be like chopping off your own head. Like, that's, and we know that's the depth of mana and rangatiratanga. It's literally a part of you, inside you, and again, generational. And mā te hinengaro Māori nahi anō, mā ngā kanohi Māori nahi anō, tērā e ata kite. Mā te hinengaro Māori hoki e ata mahara ki te hōhonutanga o te mana me te rangatiratanga. I just don't even think Pākehā minds could wrap themselves around that idea, because they weren't born of the world that we are born of. And I don't think that rangatiratanga could also exist in a capitalist system. Dictatorships can, in a system that, you know, most people are poor and there's a little bit of people that are super rich. Like, that is not rangatiratanga, and rangatiratanga can't exist in a world like that, and that is a Pākehā world.
The reason why I asked that pātai was because there are some Māori who are in Parliament at the moment that are saying that this is what tinoranga tiratanga is for everyone. Tinoranga tiratanga isn't just for Māori, it's for Pākehā, it's for everyone. And that's the reason why I asked that question, because this person is Māori and is saying those things, you know, obviously putting that out to New Tireni, to the country, saying that we all have tinoranga tiratanga. But if all of these people don't understand what tinoranga tiratanga is, do they really have it? Or, you know, so that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, koia. And yeah, some of those are my relations, embarrassingly. Hoi anō, yeah, mahi ana rātou I tērā mahi here. That's just another form of whitewashing, even though it's being pushed by my relations, it's still serving that kind of white supremacy agenda, because if everyone has mana, then kind of no one has mana. You know, it just cancels itself out, and that's in their best interest for us to not actually be able to practice fully the things that tino rangatiratanga hold in the kind of that whole world, that rangatira universe that I talked about. And so yeah, it's whitewashing, bro. It's bullshit.
That's really like kei te whakatairanga, whakamana rānei I te tangata I runga ake I te iwi.
Koia.
Momo tope I te rangatiratanga o ngā iwi katoa ei.
Koia tēnā, koia. It's just completely misreading what Te Tiriti actually says and what it intended. Te Tiriti was a deal that allowed Pākehā to live here, to control and look after themselves, but the cost of having that right to build a home here was to not mess with the tangata whenua who have been living here for over 800 years already under their own rules, their own beliefs, their own philosophies. Koia tēnā. And to say that everyone has tino rangatiratanga, it's hard to have something you don't even know what that is and to own that. But it also completely disregards our position of superiority as tangata whenua, and we shouldn't be ashamed to own that. E tika ana te rā kōrero. People talk about special treatment, That's like how come Māori get special treatment? Because that's exactly what Te Tiriti says.
Yeah.
Because we're tangata whenua and because we're sovereign.
We're going to go into Te Tiriti, but obviously kia koe he tetahi pou kānohi o Toitu Te Tiriti and this movement. What is Toitu Te Tiriti, and can you tell our listeners today what is the kaupapa, what's its why, what is it all about?
Pai te rā, bro. I guess I'll hone in on the name, Toitu Te Tiriti. There's a misconception that Toitu Te Tiriti means honour the treaty. I don't think that's completely accurate in terms of the translation. Toitu Te Tiriti, to me, is that Te Tiriti is infinite, Te Tiriti is forever. Okay? So when we say Toitu Te Tiriti, and when everyone else says that with us, it's important, I think, for us to socialise and express what we're saying. When we say Te Tiriti is forever, what we're saying is, going back to that rangatira universe that our tupuna lived in, that Te Tiriti was meant to protect and to maintain and to uphold. So that means Māori government, self-government. That means, in today's reality, Māori banks. That means a Māori tax system. That means Māori hospitals, Māori grocery stores, supermarkets, e rā mea katoa. That is what Toitu Te Tiriti, the vision of it and the why that sits underneath the kupu or behind the kupu, that's exactly what that is. Going back to the reality and the world that our tupuna lived in, because the world right now is not a tiriti-centric world. It's not a world that's anchored in the truth and the kupu of Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
Alright, and ko tira te tuapapa o Toitu Te Tiriti.
Koia tēnā.
In Naine, like this movement, can we have what are the key reasons why this has been created as a movement for
Because it's like a response, is what you're saying.
Yeah, true.
To a current political climate, like the catch cry.
Yeah.
Te tiriti, iahu mai hea.
Yeah, ka pai tērā.
Hea te taki kua, tū mai tērā.
Toitu Te Tiriti itself as a movement, at least initially, was a reaction to the bullshit that's happening under this current government. Not to say that this current government is unique compared to previous governments. It's just probably the most boldly racist government we've ever seen in our lifetimes or since Pākehā governments existed here. And so Toitu Te Tiriti very much is a reaction and a reminder to this government and to others in that kind of realm, who the tangata whenua are, what we stand for and what we stand in. Most importantly, the movement's a reminder to ourselves, we are the rangatira, we are the sovereign. And no piece of paper actually gave that to us. Te Tiriti didn't give that to us. That came from the reality that our tupuna got here 1,000 years ago and lived here undisturbed for 20 generations. That's where our mana comes from. No paper could give that to us and no paper could take that away from us. But that would all be momo if we didn't know and believe that in our ngākau and in our souls and our wairua. So that's, Te Tiriti, Toitu Te Tiriti is the stepping stones to that full belief amongst us all, we deserve better and we need to change shit because obviously it ain't working and it's never going to work.
Yeah, and some people, obviously, we were talking actually before this about like embracing the pōrangi and kind of these far like ideas that could even be possible, and then but really when people are at their limit, it's like this is totally, we can accomplish this.
Definitely.
This isn't like a weird thing that we actually have just made up, and it's like it's actually we are visually seeing it, and this could potentially happen. If in your whakaaro, if really, if we're going the way that we're going, when can you foresee this potentially happening? Like for yourself, like if you've got a whakaaro, when you think that could?
Yeah, you're right, bro. Pai tērā. And we can be our own worst enemies in that regard. Like we're just sipping on the haterade straight away and haven't even like thought about whether, this is doable. And I'm telling us right now, e hoa we could achieve this in our lifetimes. I reckon 2040 is a good goal, 200 years since the signing of Te Tiriti. And it's also supported by the prophecy of one of my tupuna, Te Aotearoa, who prophesied that 200 years would pass from the signing of Te Tiriti and the truth would rise to bring justice to everything. So we're the generation that's sitting in at that 200-year mark while we're kind of in our prime. And so I like that as a goal to move towards. And let's not buy into this, it's going to take another 2-4 generations. Nah, Pākehās got here in 1840, and then by 1853, they had a government.
Yeah.
That's 13 years. That's fuck all time.
Yeah.
Right? That's a blink of an eye, especially in regards to, in comparison to our history as a people. It was only 200 years ago that we were living in our sovereignty, and 200 years is not that long compared to the 1,000 years in Aotearoa and then 3,000 years across the Pacific.
That's a good point, bro, because we're talking about tino rangatiratanga here. Kei konei e wānanga ana i oku aki whakaaro i a kōru e kōrero ana. The collectivization being the, our strength back in the day.
Kia ora.
And arguably, koera tā rātou kaha, tā rātou tere ki te whakarite kāwanatanga i ngā tau tekau mā toru rānei. Because they saw all of Māori as the opposition to taking control of all of Aotearoa. What do you say to those Māori who are hoha and say unnecessary comments about Toitu Te Tiriti or oppose it for whatever reason as a kotahitanga movement? Because there's a bit of that chat going on among our reanga.
Pai tērā pātai. Aroha nei ki tērā hunga, because I think in many ways it's like a trauma reaction, that it's like almost making an enemy out of your own, and because we've kind of been ingrained over generations to not really trust many institutions, if any, and even if they look and sound like us, it still can be maybe a source of trauma that kind of triggers those sorts of reactions, and it's all just a result of this divide and conquer tactic that we've been victims of for a little while now. But I would say to those people, really think about where those voices are coming from. Are those coming from the rangatira that lives inside you and always has, or are they coming from that little Pākehā that lives in the back of your head, that tells you sometimes like, oh, you're just a dumb Maori. Like, why do you think you can do kaupapa, or don't rock the boat, you're safe here, you're all good. So that's why I mean in terms of kind of a trauma reaction. And that I might be looking way too far into it for some people. But also practically, e homa, you support, me tautoko I te hoiho, e kahana ngā waiwai, ne? E kahana ngā waiwai I roto I te rehi. It's not about the one kaupapa that's going to save everyone, but if there's a kaupapa there that's pumping, just support it. And if you don't want to support it, the least you could do, don't talk shit on it. Don't talk shit on it.
Rapi nei te pīnati, like, there's support and then there's neutrality and then there's the other end. And we know who likes to hang out down here. Yeah. We've got a lot of people we could name who live in that area, who are, pulling a lot of policies.
And we were having this yarn about this before this, around like, Kupe, when just before he was about to jump on his waka and come, and people were probably like, what the f*** are you up to?
You'll never make it.
Bro, you'll never make it. Oh, well, I'm going to give it a go anyway. Shoot. And then,
Then he came back, cheer whānau. Yeah, mate.
Look what I did. Look what I got.
Yeah. And it's that pōrangi, bro. Actually, pōrangi is a good thing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
E aha tō urupare ki te hunga e mea ana, hei whakawhānui pia I taku pātai, me aro kē tātou ki te whakakaha, ki te whakapakari I te iwitanga, e ko e nei kaupapa pēnei I te mea toitu, I te mea he kaupapa ā-motu tērā, he mea whakahōtātai, whakapōtiri I te kaha o te iwitanga.
Yeah, pai tērā. I think it's that reminds me of that Key and Peele skit when he's bro, that's so limiting. I don't know if you've seen that, but it is so limiting, like, why would we just focus on one thing? Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. I would say by any and all means available, by any and all kaupapa available, because there's no one kaupapa that's going to save us all. There's no one profit that's going to save us all. It's going to require every single kaupapa to capture sort of, this kaupapa will capture that 10%, this kaupapa will capture maybe that 20%, and then this, until we get to that 100%, that's when we get to liberation. So when we make this false competition between the kaupapa, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and it's so unproductive, and it's hoha, and goes back to that divide and conquer bullshit, colonizer thinking, like we got to scrap each other out. Comes out of treaty settlements too, because that was like iwi versus iwi, make you all scrap, and then that trauma is still amongst particularly the older generation today. So my challenge is like, mainga, kōrero ana koutou mo te kotahitanga, but Jesus still holding on to this petty stuff like, the bro said this and that hui, or the bro's not giving my chainsaw back, hoha tēla. So I also believe that we're the generation that is way better positioned to walk the talk on kotahitanga, and not just kotahitanga, but not practice it like for real.
This is leading into my next question, because I've heard you say this a couple of times. It's one of your gems. It's probably my favourite thing that you've ever said. I don't know if you actually coined it yourself, but it's a good one. And it's kotahitanga isn't oritetanga. When it comes to some of the activations that are coming soon in November, potentially, probably, to different groups who are wanting to activate leading into this treaty bill, what do you say about this whole kotahitanga thing, like all of these different 10%, 20% leading into this treaty bill that's getting said? What would you say to those different groups? Because it's about the collective.
Yeah.
That's what kotahitanga is about. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that everything needs to be the same. That's what I get from it. But
that's it, bro. Yeah, and if everything was the same, we wouldn't achieve the goal. Like what I said. But yeah, kotahitanga is not oritetanga. Actually stole that from the Barry Te Kura.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, well, we are not. It's pai te kōrero, because it seems ironic and counterproductive if we've created this kotahitanga thing, and it's like, okay, if you want to join this kaupapa, then you have to prescribe to these rules. Right? Why is that ironic? That's exactly what oppression is. Right? That's what Pākehās came over here, they made native schools, and that's, okay, no speaking Māori, you've got to cut your hair, prescribing rules, right? And that's oppression. And then it's like, okay, we're doing just another model of oppression as a form of liberation. How does that work? It doesn't. All right, it doesn't. So it's not about assimilating everyone to one way of being. Definitely not. Kotahitanga, I think the best Pākehā word to match kotahitanga is convergence. So it's like all of these diverse kaupapa, because we're not a monolith. There's no one prescription of being Māori. There are so many different types of Māoritanga and being Māori, particularly across this generation. And so it's getting all of those different parts, ringa waiwai kanohi o te iwi Māori, kia converge for that collective benefit. Nā, ko te rangatiratanga koia tēnā.
Papa Apirana Mahuika from Ngāti Porou used to talk about there is unity in our diversity, or within our diversity there is unity. Because, you know, as opposed to being homogenised, tētahi ahurea, ko te pakaritanga o te ao Māori kei roto i ngā rerekētanga kei wanganui i ngā iwi, eh? So what you're saying is if we all learn about and identify with our iwi versions of being Māori, and then find our own place as individuals within those collectives, then it should be easier to be part of the national movement. I guess if that's where you're coming from. Otherwise, if you're coming into a national kaupapa as a gateway to your... And I'm kind of jumping ahead here.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you.
I'm just trying to find out how everyone can feel comfortable if they're coming from being... mena ko tipuake I roto I o rātou whakapapa aiwi, mena ko timata rānei if they're just coming into te ao Māori.
And it's all like, there are bridges between those. There should be bridges between all those, and one should lead to the other. And I think about it like, if you think about it, about the identity as a Māori, identity as Ngāpuhi. Right? I don't see those things as being in competition with each other. And the way I look at it is I'm Māori because I'm Ngāpuhi, and I'm Ngāpuhi because I'm Māori. And you can hold both of those things and live in both of those things fully at the same time. And it's not this competition like you got to pick one. Definitely not. And another wero, this might be a bit dicey, but my wero too, when I think about like that iwi identity, I challenge, well, we probably already know the statistics, but those in the iwi PSG leadership who say that, you know, it should just be iwi, it should just be them, I don't reckon that's even realistic. Like, if I think about my iwi of Te Opodi, and I love my iwi, and I'm on the board at the moment, but there's 11,000 people in my iwi of Te Opodi. On a good year at an AGM, we might get 200. That's like a good year. So that's 200. Where's the 10,800 missing Opodi? So obviously the iwi PSGE level aren't reaching, and this won't be unique to Opodi, but the iwi PSGE corporations are not reaching all of their iwi. So how do we reach them? Well, it's got to be a āmotu thing, and māku e ki, I te wā nei, ko Toitu Te Tiriti, te kaupapa, te movement nei, kei te wāhi tika, kia hao I tērā hunga ki te kaupapa.
That's cool. And we need to build those bridges so that people can go both ways.
Exactly, bro. Yeah. Freely, whenever you want.
Quick one, bro. I ki mai koe, ka tae koe ngā mea e rua. Ka tae koe te tū hei Ngāpuhi, hei Māori hoki. He aha te puna o te ngāo e tae ai e koe e nei mea katoa. Because e maha o pōtai. Ka whakatuperau I taku waiaka ki te au, ke konei a eru e kōrero ana, ke konei ia e hui ana.
So many podcasts.
How do you navigate all these roles that you do, including being a man of your iwi, as you say, on the board, doing karakia ceremonies with your brothers here and there, and all these other obligations that you have being a father? How do you navigate this busy world as a Māori who's activated?
Yeah, kia ora, bro. Pai tērā. Pai te kupu navigate ki au. Because when times are getting pretty full on up, te hanga nei, ke te korokoro o te paratahau e huri ana. Ka maharau, ka huri ngā whakaro ki ngā tūpuna. You navigate mai Hawaii, the greatest navigators to ever live, the first people to discover this land, generations before any other peoples in the world even knew it existed. The biggest ocean in the universe, they traversed that, or that we know of, they traversed that without fear, without reservation. And we celebrate that. And it's, man, our tūpuna were on. Yeah, they were on, and that means that we're on. You're on, I'm on right now, today. So there's that. And then I also, bro, things can get pretty full on. And there's pressure, but pressure is a privilege, and I treat it as an honour. And even the ugly stuff, I'm like, nah, it's all beautiful. And being Māori is beautiful. And if I'm in a position relatively of privilege, bro, I got to use that. Theoretically, I could move up to the far north, get me a batch, just go fishing every day, and and not put my face out in public. But after a couple of weeks, my puku would just be like, bro, this ain't right. Your people out there struggling. Remember the bros in the hood you went to school with, who are at the moment either in gangs, locked up, or kwa mate. So it's like, remember that, bro. Remember, not everyone can live like this, and that ain't right. So mai atu mai. Yeah.
I always think our tupuna, obviously, how ballsy.
Yes,
how
bro.
ballsy was that? What? I've got an inkling. I'm just going to traverse this, and then we're going to come back, we'll get it. And it is smashing it. I always think of that. And then I go
Crazy,
back
bro.
even now, and we look at, some of the OGs that we look up to, obviously, and they did things, and you're like, and they were, the same thing happened to them.
Yes,
own people
bro.
going, fucking idiots.
Yeah.
What are they up to?
Straight up.
And then you fast forward to now, we could be up to some stuff, and then they'd be like, same thing,
Yeah, bro.
what are they? What are they up to? So I always think about that and the history of that and go, what could happen? If you're just going to sit down and go to the batch, and that sounds lovely, just fishing every day. Or you could be listening to that puku and going, I'm just going to do this, fuck it, and just see what happens.
Tika, bro.
Yeah,
Tika.
so that's what I
Just
love
launch
about
the damn waka, bro.
Yeah, it's good. I suppose that's a good one for anyone doing anything,
Yeah, straight up.
Not
It's
just
life,
about this,
bro.
just life. It's like, just launch the waka.
Tika, bro.
Yeah, don't chase that fecky and just see what happens.
Yeah, bro.
That's a good one, bro.
Obviously, bro, you're well renowned, especially in the last few years around Te Tiriti, He Whakaputanga, in terms of giving us a few truth bombs. I really wanted to get into this because I'm a bit of an idiot. Don't read well, and there's so much information out there and different people saying things, and it is. There's a lot, and I don't have many words. I've got a podcast and I don't have many words, but can you just give us kind of Tiriti for idiots? Can you give us a couple of things, or He Whakaputanga for
Hori.
Dummies. For dummies.
Yeah, for dummies. That one. That's the one.
Yeah.
I'm really a baby in this game, bro, compared to a few others. It's been around since before I was born, this whole Tiriti education thing. Well, I'm going to be blunt. For the most part, it's been a failure. Tiriti education models, and from what I can see, there are two reasons. The first is it's way too academic. All right, so you got to go to uni to get a PhD to get some understanding of what Te Tiriti might have said. So there's that, way too academic. The fact that we have this phrase, Tiriti experts, up. Because if you're an expert in something, right, by definition, that means you know heaps about it and not very many other people know about it. Okay? That's what an expert is. Everyone should be an expert on Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Anyone who lives here, whether you're Pākehā or Māori, should be an expert. And actually, there's not that much to be expert about. Yeah, it's real simple. So, yeah, way too academic, but also I think it's been way too soft, not running it straight and actually owning, living in the kōrero that we never ceded sovereignty. Right? What is sovereignty? Well, it's a form of control. Rangatiratanga, that's e whanau ngana ki tērā. And how I would, convince us, hopefully, that we never gave that away on any day in history. Me and the bro were talking before. There's only really 3 dates that you need to remember, right? The first date is our tupuna getting here 20 generations ago. Mm-hmm. So 1,000 years ago from today, our tupuna got here from Hawaii and lived here for ages as rangatira. Hapai. Second date, 1835, is when He Whakaputanga was created. Right. Now, that was created by a group of rangatira in Te Tai Tokerau, but it started to make its way outside of that lohe after it was created. It's real clear. The first part of He Whakaputanga says, ko mātou ngā rangatira. And those real experts out there would know that mātou is exclusive and tātou is inclusive. So if I'm talking to an audience of people and I say mātou, I'm talking about me, my crew behind me, but not the audience. So who's the audience here? The universe. So our tupuna, we're talking to the universe and putting a pau in the ground and saying ko mātou ngā rangatira. But also the whenua is rangatira. So the land is also the boss. I'm the boss and the land is the boss. Simple as. That's what they said in 1835. The second part of He Whakaputanga, and it's in the name, Hakaputa. Puta is to be out in the open. Hakaputa is to put something out in the open. So we were putting our mana out into the open so the world could understand this land is not to be messed with and its people are not to be messed with. The second part of He Whakaputanga is clarifying that the only people that can make tikanga laws here in Aotearoa are those rangatira. The third part of He Whakaputanga is a commitment that the rangatira of Hapu and Iwi of Aotearoa will meet every year, well, regularly, to do rangatira shit. Talk about, what do we do with our land? There's some rarus over here. How do we manage these resources? Trade, te mea. Right? Just living a rangatira lifestyle. Chair. And then the last part of He Whakaputanga, we'll send this document over to the bro in England who calls himself a king, just to recognise that he's the bro. Yeah. And in case that there are other countries like the US or France who get some ideas around Aotearoa, and we say, we've got the bro with us and he reckons he's got our back. So there's a relationship there. But He Whakaputanga, importantly, is not an agreement. So an agreement is 2 parties coming together. He Whakaputanga, it's one party. Our tupuna is saying, I am the sovereign to the whole world in a way that the world could understand. So that's what He Whakaputanga did. It didn't create our sovereignty, but it put it on paper, helpfully, so then other countries didn't get it twisted. Right? So that was He Whakaputanga. 5 years later, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, simple as. Te Tiriti o Waitangi also doesn't cancel out He Whakaputanga. They both work together to look after, protect our mana, our rangatiratanga. The first part of Te Tiriti was basically our tupuna saying to Pākehā, who at this time, by the way, were playing up on our whenua, getting pissed, abusing tangata whenua, stealing land, all of that. And this has been going on for ages. So our tupuna, in part 1 of Te Tiriti, were saying to the Queen of England at the time, we're going to let you build a house here. Build a house here called the Kāwanatanga House so you can look after and control your people because they're running amok and they need to be controlled. And then we get to the second part. Your house of Kāwanatanga can't be bigger than my house of Tino Rangatiratanga because I'm the boss and this house and me, I've existed here for 1,000 years. Right? So don't mess with my mana. Your house can't encroach onto my house. And within my house, I've got 3 things. Whenua, land, taonga, stuff that I care about, and then 3, kāinga. Now this is important. Luther Vandross said it himself. A house is not a home, and a kāinga is not a whare. Okay? So a whare is like a physical thing, right? We know that. But a kāinga represents so much more. And in kāinga is encapsulated our way of living and existing. Our political power sits right there. Our Māori government, Māori parliament, Māori schools, Māori banks, Māori grocery stores, te mea, all of those things fit right there. The bullshit thing, that article's been made way too commercial and corporate. We talk about estates, lands. It's so much, kāinga is so much more than that. So all of those three things are in this whare of Te Tino Rangatiratanga, which is meant to be an infinite structure. Toitu Te Tiriti, so that's that part. And then the last part of Te Tiriti, which has been misconstrued by people who don't know what they're talking about, is that our tupuna was saying, Pākehā mā, if you decide to build like a school or a hospital, you also have to build that for my people, right? Otherwise, why the heck would our tupuna enter into this deal? What would we get out of it? We gave the Queen the right to build a house. They didn't give us rangatiratanga, we've always had it. So the third part of Te Tiriti is only for the benefit of Māori, right? Not for all peoples, only Māori. Add to that, there were 80,000 Māori in Aotearoa at the time, 2,000 Pākehā. That's a 40-1 rugby game. Who's winning that? Right? Exactly. And the theory, according to the English draft, which no rangatira understood and very little signed, was that our tupuna gave this tino rangatiratanga whare to the Queen of England for free, which is absolute puluhete, teka.
Yes.
Who would believe in that? Well, the people that were paid to benefit from that lie. That's the lie that the Queen of England used to build this illegitimate government, which, by the way, still exists today. No rere wama, me tūraki ko tērā whare o te pūngā were ki raro, kā tū tonu ko te whare o te rangatiratanga.
There you go. That was pretty simple. If we're going to go talk about this whare that is still standing, and obviously many other structures throughout Aotearoa that are sitting on land that has been taken, and all of the systems that we are living in today, what would you say to Māori that are listening today around kind of getting their head around it's actually not just the whare in these places, but it's actually systemically, if you talk about colonisation, it's actually happening to you whether you know it or not. Like, what would you say to people to start to kind of like start listening to what you're saying, what people are saying? Like, how do we wake up to that?
Yeah, it goes right back to the pātai, bro, that the only way that become a thing is through education, well, re-education and liberation, rangatiratanga of the mind, and then rangatira actions, rangatira universe will follow. So re-education, making this information accessible, understandable and believable for all of our people in a way that's empowering and in a way that like awakens that rangatira that lives inside you that's been having a moe for a little while now. So kia maranga ia ki runga, ka puta ki te whai au, ka puta ki te ao marama. So that's an important part. Going back to our man Malcolm X, he said you can't legislate goodwill and you can't legislate understanding, I guess, which is laws, papers, reports, but they are not the thing that will give life, give mauri to our rangatiratanga. That's us. Our mauri feeds the mauri of rangatiratanga. There has to be a connection between that and our hinengaro, kia rangatira ngā whakaro, ka rangatira ngā mahi, ka rangatira te ao.
Sounds simple to me, bro.
So that us?
Yeah.
Ready to go?
Should we go?
When do we start?
Sign us up.
Sign me up. Okay, bro. Kia tūhono o te whakaro rangatira o te hinengaro ki te whatu manoa, ki te whakaro rangatira, ki te ngākau rangatira rānei i roto i tō whatu manoa. He hanga whanonga kei mua i te tangata kia tutuki ai tērā tūhononga. What sort of actions are available to our people when they start feeling that tērā momo wairua e pupuaki ana I roto I rātou, that when they start feeling inspired, like Hori's talking about, a lot of our people know that something's not right. They might not have the PhD to be able to explain it, or they might not be even interested in that world, but they might feel a little something like, something's not right, and maybe I could do something about it. Or on the other end of the scale, maybe like kei te mate nui ki tō rātou Māoritanga, maybe they really want to be part of it. So what kind of actions, I guess, what kind of bridges, if we go back to that other kōrero, can we build for our people to tap in?
Pai tērā. We've all been a part of activations in different parts of the rohe, particularly recently. And when I think about that kupu activation, what are we activating? Well, going back to that kōrero, that rangatira that lives within you. And he tangata hiki mai tai ahau, no reira hau, ka whakaro ake, just in case. No reira, anō ki au, it's just about getting those rangatira reps in, eh? And it kind of starting small, and then eventually that rangatira that lives in you is just he mārohi te tangata, ne? On, ready to go, ready to mahi te mahi. And one form of repetition of mahi that you can do is just showing up to the activation, even if it's like scary for you, just go. And then it might, like little actions might seem little, or share something on social media, speaking te reo, or saying some stuff that's kind of like, he niho kei roto i e rā kōrero, ne? He whakaro kei roto i e rā kōrero. That's how we can build, normalize, and then eventually we get to this critical mass of Māori people living in Aotearoa who have rangatiratanga of the mind and are actually practicing it, and then boom, influencing how we look, feel, live as a society. Ko te kōrero, anei te tai kōrero. Ko te pūtake o te tai a nifa he ripo ngā wai. Ko te pūtake o te tai a nifa he ripo ngā wai. So tai a nifa is like a tsunami, a massive wave. Its pūtake is just a little, what do you call that? A riponga, i roto i te wai, like a little ripple. Yeah, ko te ripple. Yeah? So tsunami at one point in time was merely a ripple. Okay? So it's like those ripple things, but again, not mucking around and taking ages to kind of get there, but quite quickly that traction can build. And we're the generation to do that, particularly given the technology we have access to today and the resources we have access to today. Back when Uncle Hori and that organised Hīkoi, they had to like ring people individually and be like, come on the Hīkoi, come on. Whereas these days, you know, if we were maybe thinking of doing something like that November, we could just post on Instagram and boom, everyone knows. So yeah, a little tīwhiri ki reira e wama, me atamatara ki tō pai āhua, ki o pai papuri katoa, kei mahu e koe i te ngaru nui e haere nei.
Get those reps in.
Those reps.
That's it, man.
One of the things I heard there was the niho, and one of our art projects that we did was called Ngā Niho o Matariki, and it was kind of a Matariki whainga, was to our people just to kind of bare their teeth a little bit more.
Yes, man.
And just let the teeth kind of come out of the gums there, and you know, just kind of just
not too far, please.
Well, you know, they can come down a little bit and just kind of gnaw in to what's happening at the moment, whether that's education or just gnaw into the activations. That was the whakaro behind it, and there's a lot of people that are on the like cusp of just doing that. So I think what you said then was really nice. If it's just about painting a sign or sharing something like that, and that just puts you over there, and then get those reps in, I think that's how massive movement, and that's just the start of this convergence of this kotahitanga. And for our people that are listening there who might be there.
Yeah, tika wau.
Yeah.
And I think it's our role too, as being fellas that are kind of like more on the hearty end of the spectrum, like in hakahihi te rau e anō, is to be encouraging, but to do it with aroha as well. One of my brothers after paiwana kōrero, it's easier to pull people along with you then push them and shove them into a kaupapa. And so, yeah, just a thing for us to be conscious of as well. I always act with aroha, tika pono e rā mea, and be more the tauira, encouraging, as opposed to making people feel stink, because that can actually be what shuts the door forever, and we don't want that.
Yeah. It's not like your iwi that you have to be a part of. It's a kaupapa that you want people to be a part of, So you think about what kind of person would I want to invite me to a kaupapa, and then I guess that's what you're saying, But and one of our haka in Ngāti Porou, which I love, and it's kia whakatete mai o rei.
Oh, ne.
He kuri, oh. And that's
True. I
teaching
didn't
us
know
how
you were
to...
Ngāti Parau, bro. Buzzy.
But it's cool. I love that. Just bearing the
No mai koe a muri ake.
But yeah, even like just showing your teeth and just smiling.
Kia ora.
You
Yeah,
know?
tautoko.
Yeah, just having a go at or just small bites.
I'll
You
tell you
know,
about that.
and then take some big bites.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's living. Anyway, bro, this has been lovely kōrero, bro. We could go on forever and ever and ever.
Up, yeah.
But tēnei te mihi kia koe, my ngāpuhi brother,
Te mā, bro.
king of the podcast.
Oh, it's kare moe no ngā wii.
Jeez, but no, welcome to Porokate.
Kia ora,
mate.
brothers.
Thank you, it's been brilliant.
Nā, nōku te whiwhi e mihi nui ana.
Cheers, kia ora.
Porokate is a podcast by the Hori and the Guru. Toitu te porokate, toitu te reo Māori. Ooh.